Corey Floyd, author of Interpersonal Communication, states, "As important as friendships are to us, most are not permanent. Rather, as with most relationships, friendships have a lifespan. They are initiated, they are maintained, and eventually many of them end. But why do they end?" Lifestyle website YourTango.com polled 100 mental health professionals and found that communication problems was cited as the most common factor that leads to divorce, 65%. And that is followed by couples' inability to resolve conflict, which is 43%. So I was talking to a family member about this project the other day, and we had some good talks about interpersonal conflict because she knew about it better than anyone. Her and her husband of many, many years ended up divorcing just over simple arguments because they could never get over it. It was just, neither of them wanted to wash the dishes. They both thought the other one was lazy. The other one didn't want to get up and feed the kids breakfast in the morning. You know, just simple little things, even though they loved each other dearly. And that's really sad that a lot of people, I feel like, just don't know how to get over conflict, and so they couldn't figure it out and they divorced, and even though they were still very much in love, still spoke all the time, they weren't married anymore, and their kids had to grow up in a broken home just for the fact that they couldn't get along, which again is very, very sad. And this all leads into the nature of interpersonal conflict. Okay, so what I'm going to be telling you about today is interpersonal conflict. It is extremely important. This occurs whenever a person or group of people frustrates or interferes with another person's efforts at achieving a goal. My personal example that I deal with quite a bit is my mom using my laptop for a very long time whenever she knows I have school things to do, but she doesn't care because she's doing other things. And so I try to settle our conflict by, verbal and nonverbal cues, and that'll just be me, telling her, I really need that back, if you could get it to me as soon as possible, or me, just walking by her subtly, kind of rolling my eyes, hoping that she'll get the hint. But that honestly isn't the best way to go about it. It's just another example of conflict. Okay. So for the next few minutes, I'll discuss the characteristics of interpersonal conflict, and I will discuss with you the strategies to manage interpersonal conflict. Okay, so a few characteristics are just that conflict is completely natural. Everybody does it. It can be direct or indirect. It could be harmful and it can be beneficial, and it requires at least two people. So this, just any type of conflict, it can happen in so many different ways, and if you do it correctly, if you use, the correct steps, it could be good for you. It could be good for your relationship because you can settle things in a good way and come to a beneficial solution. It can be harmful if you handle it the wrong way, if you don't respect what the other person is saying, their needs in the situation, their wants, and so that can also really hurt and end a relationship. And conflict happens in absolutely everybody, so it's important to get used to it and to learn how to handle things in the best way possible. Okay? So here are some strategies to manage conflict successfully. These are from the Harvard Review website from Professor Glenn Corkindale. And so these are just a few things that he came up with. So the first option is forcing. So you can use your authority to satisfy your concerns and not think about anyone else's concerns. I feel like I see that a lot in parenting. You see parents just forcing their children into a certain way because they don't want to deal with it because they're kids and they're not necessarily respecting their opinions or thoughts on things. You could accommodate, and so you could allow the other party to satisfy their concerns while neglecting your own. I feel like I see that a lot in more abusive relationships, I would say. You just forget about yourself. Your partner wants you to forget about yourself and just make everything better for them. And that, I've seen that, I found that to be very common as well. You can avoid the problem, just not pay attention to it, avoid conflict, and that's also very common. Just being non-confrontational, a lot of people do it. A lot of people just don't want to deal with it. They would rather, they could get something beneficial out of this, but they're so afraid of the harm that could come to the relationship that they just, don't want to deal with it. Then we have compromising. So you can attempt to resolve the conflict by identifying a solution that can be satisfactory to both parties, but not completely satisfactory to both. So you have to, have a little push and pull and give a little bit. And I feel like that could be one of the most, beneficial ways to handle things. You're not always going to get what you want, and so you're going to have, some bend on both sides of, both parties, and you're not always going to get what you want. But it's better if both of you can come out on a positive note rather than, just nobody getting anything that they want. And then you could do collaborating. So you can cooperate with the other party to understand their concerns in an effort to find a mutually satisfying solution. So this is also a very good way to handle interpersonal conflict. And I think that's the most important thing about conflict, is to really listen and understand the other party's issues, the other party's problems. You want to know what's important to them, what will make the situation better, what will make it worse, because everybody's feelings are valid, and you can't just tell someone that they're invalid. Okay, so today I have shown you what interpersonal conflict is, the characteristics of interpersonal conflict, and the strategies to manage interpersonal conflict. There are so many ways to do this, but I feel like I've shown you a few bad ways and a few better ways to handle this, and just how to recognize interpersonal conflict in your everyday life. I know that some may think, well, it's just an argument, but every argument, has some importance to it, and you never know what it can lead to. Just like my relative and her husband having issues, it can cause some major problems down the line. And so it's better to be able to handle these things and just, find a beneficial solution to everybody. And as you can see in here, if you could just study this and understand how to overcome your differences, you can come out stronger than ever. Thank you.